All right, good afternoon and welcome everybody to our SHAC meeting for the month of April. Please continue to eat, but we just want to be respectful of your time and so get started on time. So I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District Health Advisory Council to order. This meeting is in compliance with section 28.004 of the Texas Education Code and applicable board policy. The council's meeting today will address only the topics on the agenda. No other topics will be discussed during the meeting. SHAC meetings are open to the public. Guests wishing to address the SHAC may do so by emailing the SHAC committee at shac@neisd.net. Any person that causes disruption during the meeting will be asked to leave. Thank you for your cooperation. With all that said, our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and I hand it over to the incomparable Kelly Lepesca.
Or the inconceivable. Is there a motion to approve the February 22nd minutes? Debbie Freno. Is there a second? Lori Fitch. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay and raise your hand. The motion is approved. And with that, we turn it over to Jennifer Aguilar.
Hi. Sorry, get a mic going. The good news is I don't have to talk much today. I just wanted to give you a quick little update on where we are with textbook adoption, and then really today's meeting is going to get mostly turned over to Alex Vardal, so I definitely appreciate him being here. So here's where we are in textbook adoption. I wanted to show you we have submitted to the board and to executive staff the process that we utilize. So this is what we have to give them. This is only one of the things that it's going to look through. So this is the process that we used. So needless to say, they're going to have a lot to really look at. So we just got this off the printer last week. And so we are trying to get this into the hands of board and executive staff so they can start to look at it in order to make their recommendation based on the information we have in here and based on their opportunity to review the materials. So that's where we are with that process. So all of your recommendations and votes are in here. You have your own little section of what we sent to them so that they are aware of the SHAC's role in the recommendations. So we have everything the teachers did, and we have everything that SHAC did, and so we hand it over to them so that they can make their decisions on that recommendation. So once we know something, we will let you know, but that's just kind of where we are. Since we spent so much time this year working on this, I felt like providing you with that update would be helpful, and you guys can see as well as we did, it's going to take them a while to look through this. So just patience on all of our parts so that they can really make a good decision based on all the information that we've provided them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex here very quickly. And Alex is going to talk to us about the SHI, which is the School Health Index, which is really the data that drives the work of SHAC. I know many of you have been through this process because you've been on SHAC for a while, but there's a lot of us, me included, that are new. And so this is going to be something that's kind of new for us. Once he's done walking us through the results of the survey, and hopefully he's going to talk through all of that, we'll then talk in our subcommittees about past goals that we have created based on the SHI in order to look at what do we want to do moving forward, thinking about next year. So that's really why we have you sitting in your subcommittees, so that once he's done, you all can have a conversation about the results from the lens of your subcommittee. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex, who is our Director of Performance and Planning. Correct? Did I get that right? All right. Thank you. I think that mic is off.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Podium's on, or
I just need
you want this one?
Share. I can use that. That's fine. Yeah, I can hold it in. Just use
that turn on?
Hello? Good afternoon?
Nope.
No?
Yep.
Oh, yes? Okay. Good afternoon. I think there should be some handouts coming here your way. And essentially, what it's going to tell you to do, if you have a device, is to go to az1.qualtrics, that's QUALTRICS.com. And then here, you put in SHAC as the username, and then SHAC 2022, and we sign in. Yeah, I'll go ahead and save the result, sure. Okay, and then here we go. We've got the results here. And so for elementary, first off, we can start to view the results, and it gives you a reminder, as is reiterated on the printout you have in front of you, of why the SHI was developed and how it's used. And the QR codes go to the same place that this link here does on this dashboard that you can use, so that you can quickly reference each of these different questions and find out more information, because they all fall on a different scale. So for example, and I'll tell you, in overall, lower means worse. So they're automatically sorted based on the average, because generally lower means that it's worse. So if we just copy, for example, this very beginning, and then we clicked on this link, and we wanted to see more information about that, a little Control F, and we find, and we can see here exactly what it meant. So our classroom teachers required to participate. Yes, all do, most do, some do, or none do. So when we see a 1.5, we know that our school's average right in between some do and most do. And that's not to say that there weren't any threes, but as an average, we're hitting a 1.5 there. So that allows you to go through and see there's a whole lot of questions on these SHIs. And some questions are answered by the district, and some are answered by the campus. So you'll see the district questions over here on the right, and you'll see that these numbers don't have a decimal place because there's only one answer. There would be no average of a decimal place. But that tells you, again, you can still copy the same kind of information here, and then in that PDF, you could look and see here, for example, is much more information that is very hard to fit on that graph, but you're able to see that it's an area of need, and easily find out more information about it. So that's just elementary, and those are the main questions, but we also ask some questions about birthdays and recess, and that information is provided below, visualized. Whether the recess is scheduled differ by the grades, and then same with the minutes, the number of minutes. And here, if you click this, you can see that a 4 means 46 to 60 minutes a day, 3, 31 to 45 minutes a day, etc. That's what this little information tooltip is going to tell you. And then if we go up to the top, you can see here that we were under elementary, but if we click secondary, we're seeing the high school and middle school results. So these are, again, average, and you can drag these over to make sure you get as much room as you can here. And that will, again, tell you those areas to focus on. What your lowest numbers are, typically the areas where, according to the school health index, the higher number is typically better based on their scoring. The high school did not have the questions about birthdays and recess, but it did also split out questions by campus and district, and I know the different committees are interested in different information, and so I'm hopeful that maybe there's some devices around in the committees where we can kind of break up and look at different things, but at this point I'm open to any questions, and yeah. Yes? You can look at it by school. If you want to look at a specific school, this little filter up here will just tell you the answers for a specific school. Same thing under elementary. And again, these are also adjustable. And if you wanted to see areas where we're doing great, you can click and sort. Yes.
Can you try to get to the
Mhm.
first matters here? Can you just talk very quickly about who fills out the SHI?
Yes, so the SHI is filled out by different employees at each school, committees, essentially the principals, assistant principals. Certain questions are answered by their coaches or other staff members, their athletic directors, or well, they're yeah, both coaches. And then we, at the district level, we have athletics questions that get answered by our athletics department, our health department, our nutrition department. Obviously, has a lot to say about many of these, and that was part of why we did want to split this out into campus and district, because a lot of these questions that were previously being answered by the campus were sort of being answered incorrectly because they didn't fully understand all of the programs that are already being implemented at the district level. So by having the district cover those questions, we're able to more accurately reflect the data, and that's another improvement in this model.
Thank you. I think I wanted to kind of bring that up. So I think one of the things that we might want to consider when we look at this data is that it might be a lack of communication, not that it's not happening, right? And so that might
Correct.
help us rethink some of our goals and how do we make sure that our campuses know
Mhm.
what we're doing and how we're supporting and what's available when we go out there. So Alex is here to kind of address our questions, and we wanted to give you a big chunk of time because we know that this year in particular, we had to change 2 of our subcommittee meetings into full SHAC meetings to really finish our textbook adoption. That really kind of ate up most of our meeting times this year. So we wanted to give you time today to talk to your subcommittees about this data and really start looking at goals moving forward. And ideally, we only look at this data every 3 years, correct?
It was delayed 1 year because of the pandemic, but it's every other year.
Every
Yeah.
3 years. So it should help us to set kind of a big 2-year goal that we can then subdivide into smaller goals, so that we can obviously continue to improve how we're supporting our students and even our faculty with school help. So we wanted to give you some time, and what I've included in your folders are the last 2 years of goals. And again, with the transition this year with the PE and health department, we never really got to set new goals this year because we kept moving our subcommittee meetings into full SHAC to work on our textbook adoption. So what I provide, and it's front and back, and there should be enough copies for everybody at your table, are the goals from last year and how complete they are, and the goals from the previous year. And those goals would have been made from the previous SHI results. So I just wanted to provide that so you all could take a look at the kinds of goals we've set in the past based on the SHI results, so that you could then start maybe having some conversations about what do we want to look to maybe put on the radar moving forward, so that we have this idea as we start the new school year next year while we have this data adoption from us. So that was kind of the goal for a big chunk of our time. So I think we're going to give you, do you have any other perks to add?
Well, so I would definitely reiterate everything you said, and then just to add a couple particular pieces as we come up with goals, or as the subcommittees come up with goals for the future. This is just a starting point for this dashboard. So because there are so many questions and so much information, it is overwhelming to go into as much breakdown as we could about every little bit of detail and every question. But once we know what those goals are, we can go into more detail and provide more information at cluster or campus level to a easier visual kind of helping tools like that. I just wanted to add that. And then also to reiterate the first thing you said about this being perceptional data. This is essentially a survey, and so it's perceptional data. It's if the coach answered that it's a 3, it's that they think it's a 3, and hopefully that is correct, but we might not be communicating correctly that actually it should have been a 4 or something like that. So absolutely, these aren't hard numbers, and if there seems to be something that you're like, I don't think that's right, that's entirely possible, and that is good to note because it's a communication piece. So that's all I would add.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Can you review the scoring again? I know you said it. Explain
Certainly. Yeah, so the 0 here on some of these, we are still awaiting some final information at the district level as well. And the scoring is different for the different questions. So that's why we're providing this link to get at the scoring for the different questions, because just quickly, for example, if I copy this here, and this 1.5, so here that would be between most do and some do, but then if we copy this 1.6, that is between we do not offer opportunities for students to participate in physical activity before or after school, but there are plans to initiate it, and we offer before school or after school, but not both. So that's one of the real complications with this data, is that it is not on the same scale aside from the numerical values. So, in general, lower is worse, and that's why we wanted to make sure and provide this so you can really dig into what these elements mean and what that number really means, because it's different at each piece. Aside from the recess minutes, which there, it's just 4 is 46 to 60 minutes a day, 3, 31 to 45 minutes a day, 2, 21 to 30 minutes a day, and 2 to 20 minutes a day. And you can see our grade levels organized. And again, all same means that all grade levels get the same amount of recess, or same minutes of recess, regardless of the grade level. And the others are broken out. Does that help, Tim? Okay, excellent. All right.
So we're going to, again, use a chunk of our time today.
Mhm.
Use 30 minutes to just kind of talk at your tables, kind of process this information. And it really is just kind of some reflective data over our goals for the last 2 years. And hopefully that's what you have in your packet, looking at the goals that we had set for the past 2 years. Do we feel like what we are seeing in this is really showing that is what we focused on? And yes, we are okay with that, or maybe do we need to continue with that? I know there was a focus with this subcommittee, our fitness and physical activity on recess in the last 2 years. So looking at that data and seeing, do we have more work to do in that area, and really thinking about that. So really this is just time as a subcommittee, and really look at it through the lens of your subcommittee, and which questions do you think really speak to the work of your subcommittee, and really look at that and just get some ideas down. And then at 1 o'clock, we're going to kind of come back together and just maybe share some reflections with each table. So just 30 minutes to talk at your tables, to kind of dig through that data and try to make some sense out of it in relation to the goals that you've been setting, and thinking about where do we want to put our focus over the next 2 years with our searches. Any questions?
I'll be here at 1 o'clock too, in case there's, yeah.
And Alex will still be here to answer our questions for us. So we'll give you about 30 minutes to work.
Any updated questions? Because I know in elementary, we don't do the presidential youth fitness program. We do Fitnessgram, and I know it's a little piece of it.
Yeah.
No one ever uses the presidential.
So the questions are from 2017 from the CDC, and they have not updated since 2017.
So we use those questions.
Yeah, it's
We
the
don't make them our own.
CDC's questions. And we made some slight adjustments to wording to make it a little bit easier for the campuses. But if and if we wanted to look at that in the future, the only thing is it's then not the SHI. We start to make adjustments. But as long as we all communicate that, we can certainly something we can talk about and do.
I
It's
saw
just
like 2.9. I'm like, there's no one doing the presidential youth
yeah. Well,
fitness program. But I did see there is
Yeah.
a little piece of the Fitnessgram. That's what we do.
okay. And so
3 through
maybe
12.
it might be that I'd have to go back and look. We might have said, for example, the fitness group.
Well,
On the actual survey, which would be a little bit different, possibly even than what that is. And that's just because this is such an overwhelming amount of information.
Right.
But we did in the survey, that went out to the campus employees. We did also provide some extra explanation.
Okay.
So it's possible
So they could've
that
seen
they
Fitnessgram
it's
and
possible
said,
that they put Fitnessgram on there. I'd have to go back and look at that. but it is possible that we were like, we don't do the presidential thing, and
You
so we
don't
might have
wanna go, like,
already
0
done
or
that.
whatever,
Yeah, right.
you know?
So that might be why it's a 2.9. Is that we were just like, oh, we're gonna say fitness gram is the instead. So. Yeah, you got that.
So to help you. And remember, this is perceptual data. I do like the printout, but it is 300 pages and we're in a paper shortage right now. But maybe there is something we can, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. So those are things to definitely think about. Absolutely, absolutely. And so that's definitely one of the things that we want to hear is like what can we do? I'm just saying that's why we didn't this time yet, because we also wanted to see what do you need, okay, right, before you can that many. But also, some of the subcommittee groups of nutrition is having a great conversation, and I think they're already starting to see something come out, and I think this group has something to share. So think about maybe what you need. If one person at your table can record the what you guys need, so we can collect that from each of you. And then one thing to share out that kind of was just something that jumped out at you in your conversations, whether it's something that you want to investigate more, whether it's something that you have questions about, whether it's something that you're thinking might be a goal. So give you about 5 more minutes. What do you need to make this data and this process better when we look at it again next time? So because we are going to have to keep looking at this to kind of make our next set of goals. So what do you need? And then what is one thing your group really looked at that is something you're thinking about in the future is jumping out at you from this data? 5 more minutes. No time to go.
Yes. Hi. So for classroom health and sex ed, our big jump out, our big aha was that there's a lot of questions about community involvement and family engagement, and we were talking and discussing like what does that look like in health, but then there were so many cross conversations of engagement in nutrition and safe and healthy schools and physical activity, and that jump out of every committee having some sort of a goal either rooted in family and community engagement or having some, like we talked about, having a piece of every goal has some sort of family and community engagement. And so that was a big jump out for us.
Excellent. I was over here kind of when that came up because we were like, well, is that a subcommittee, parent and family engagement? And then I think where the conversation went was it should be embedded in all of our subcommittees, that we are being very intentional, explicit about how we're engaging family and community in all of the work that we're doing, which I think is a great thing for us to look forward to next time. Awesome. Nutrition. Do you guys mind sharing your big aha with the group?
Well, I'm not sure we had an aha, but we had a lot of good discussion, and that we want to get more into the questions to realize what was answered about nutrition, and just realizing that the description on the score may not fully describe the question. So going back to the document to read the questions and the answers that go with the scores to really understand why they might have scored things a certain way.
Thank you. And I know there was definitely some discussion over there as well about possibly looking at how our health teaks maybe already are being taught, especially things like nutrition, in our elementaries, and maybe taking a look at where they're already embedded in there and looking at some of those things. So they had some great conversations over there. All right, so I'm going to go to physical fitness and physical activity. Hello.
So one of the things that we were talking about for a while is we noticed some of our scores went down from previous years, and we were discussing that if maybe a lot of these activities and programs that the campuses used to provide before and after school possibly got taken away because of COVID. So we want to dig in and kind of see what maybe, or make sure that schools are starting to re-implement as we are opening up more the programs and activities they were providing before COVID started.
Safe and healthy. I'm sorry, safe and healthy. That's okay. That's okay. So, you know, as we look through and really we're trying to figure out module-wise, I think our subcommittee covers several of the modules. And looking through the questions and how they were answered, it made us wonder if maybe interpretation of the question as people were answering, maybe not a clear understanding of what question was being asked. And so that might be the lower, kind of looking at those lower scores. But I do think once we meet back and having, knowing which specific questions hit our modules and our subcommittee, then, you know, it'll be much easier for us to pull those out and, you know, look at the low ones and see what we need to do as far as setting new goals and things like that. And possibly a computer for each of the subcommittees for, you know, one of the members to type as everybody else provides the information that we need to kind of change and look over.
Absolutely. I think those are great suggestions, and they have them on here. So we'll collect all those from everybody else. Before I send it back to Sean and Kelly to wrap up, I know Katie had the next piece, which was really just kind of a talk real quick about health curriculum update. Katie, I can do it for you if you want, just on a time saver.
Yeah, go for it.
So all we wanted to share with you today is, obviously we know we have new TEKS, right? And we know that any changes to health curriculum have to go through SHAC for recommendations first. So what we have, but we're also facing a little bit of a clock because we have to have this done so that our health teachers are ready to go come August, right? And we only have one more meeting. So what we wanted to give you, and it's in those folders, you can kind of divvy them out. It's we typically call it a YAG, year at a glance, but health is only a semester course, so it's actually a semester at a glance. I guess it's a SAG. And you'll see it's not finished. And our teachers are working on this. And what they've done is they've looked through all of the TEKS and they've bundled them into units of study. So we have all of the units of study for Health 1 and for 6th grade middle school health, at least the units of study put on there. And what we did was we arranged it for this first year to put the units of study at the front that are the things that we already kind of have that haven't changed. First aid hasn't really changed. CPR hasn't really changed. Nutrition, there are a few changes on things like that. But we went ahead and put those at the beginning of the semester. So the first 9 weeks or the third 9 weeks, depending on what semester students take health. And then we obviously are still going to be working on those things until we can look at our HSAE curriculum. Because remember, there is a board resolution that we have to reevaluate that. And that will really be the work of this committee all of next year. Congratulations, we have lots of work to do. So we'll look at that, and then they will bring recommendations for HSAE to you all, right? Because they are the health curriculum committee. And I know this year, all of us spent a lot of time because of textbook adoptions really focused on that. But next year, we know what has happened is that means that nutrition didn't really spend a lot of time in subcommittees talking about the things that we need to talk about, nor did Safe Schools. So we want to kind of push that to them, and they will then present to full SHAC. And so that we will kind of go about it that way. So they're going to really be the ones taking on the charge of reviewing the HSAE, the new TEKS, and then helping us find the curriculum that goes with that. So you'll see that all of the permission slip-based pieces of health, we have the unit there, and we have a placeholder for it, but we have to wait until we can kind of start that review, and that will be the second 9 weeks or the fourth 9 weeks, so that, you know, trying to buy us some time to get all of that done. So it's a little tricky right now because we have to get your approval, and then we can make it official with teachers. This is a draft, so all we're going to ask you to do is take a look at these first units for Health 1 and 6th grade, and just kind of come back with any thoughts, ideas at our final May meeting on just the units that we have done. And again, this was the work our health teachers have done. We bring our health teachers in, and those big understandings are based on the TEKS that you will see listed at the bottom. The TEKS are available online. We can also send them to you. So those are really the big ideas that our health teachers say, this is really the big understanding we want our students to walk away from. This document will eventually be online for parents, because every content area currently has a document like this. So if your child is in biology right now, there is a document like this for biology posted online. If they're in English 4, there's a document like this posted online. The district uses this same template for all of their curriculum, so we wanted to make sure we're rewriting health curriculum because of new TEKS. Let's follow the same thing so that our principals are used to looking at the same type of document, so that when they walk into a health class, they know what to look for, because it looks the same as when they walk into an English class or a math class, right? So this is what we have started putting together. So just put some eyes on it. Come back with it next time with some suggestions. We might send you a Google form where you can put suggestions in that way ahead of time so we can look at that. But again, the units that have nothing on there, we're waiting on those. We still have to come back together on those for some of those until we get we can start reviewing that curriculum. But these are the things that really didn't change a whole lot. So we felt like we could continue using what we've already done. And that way the teachers have something to get started in August. But we want to be transparent and show you this is what we are looking at giving our teachers for these units that are moving forward, right, based on our TEKS. Once we do get a textbook adopted, we can then look at lessons that help support these understandings from that textbook, right? But these are the big understandings that we want our students to walk away from. So that's kind of your homework. Katie, did I miss anything? No. All right. So that is definitely your homework. And then I'm going to throw it back to you all for some upcoming events, and some people might want to throw an idea in there, and then we can close up.
So, May is National Physical Fitness and Sports Month, #MoveInMay. And we have, it's also National Asthma and Allergy Awareness Month. You also may have seen, it's the Northeast ISD Partners in Education NEEF celebration on Thursday, May 19th at the Norris Conference Center, the Red Oak Ballroom, 618 Northwest Loop 410. That you can RSVP by May 11th. And they'll have cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. The dress code is business casual.
We have one thing we're going to share about asthma awareness, something that we're trying to get together.
Yes, health services and PE and health are going to attempt to do the asthma obstacle course through the PE curriculum, not curriculum, but as a day of fun for asthma during the month of May. So we're working on that to get that out to some of the elementary schools.
Will you explain real quickly what's in the obstacle course?
The asthma obstacle course is a very hands-on activity for students to kind of understand what asthma is all about. And so it's not only knowledge-based, but it's activity. So there's 2 large tunnels that become airways. And so the kids can crawl through an open airway, a normal, healthy airway, and then they learn about asthma triggers, and then they learn what it feels like to have asthma, how difficult it is to breathe, using a straw and jumping up and wrapping the chest so they feel that tightness. And then they exit the asthma obstacle course through an airway that has inflammation, bronchoconstriction, and mucus production inside of the tunnel. Not the real stuff. Not the real stuff. It's the inflammation are the pit balls, and the mucus are squishy big white balls, and then the tunnel is wrapped so it has some bronchoconstriction. So they really get a feel for, they're like the air moving through an airway. So the open airway, it's real easy for them to crawl through. The exit the obstacle course through the asthma airway is a little bit more difficult. So they understand that's why it's hard for kids with asthma to breathe.
And so we're going to work together to share that with our elementary teachers who are interested in doing that during the month of May.
May.
Their PE activities to really bring awareness to asthma.
Yes.
So we're going to get together on that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And then also for Asthma Awareness Month, real quickly, the nurses are going to get a survey to kind of just assess how asthma-friendly their campuses are post-COVID, because a lot of things changed with COVID. And so, unfortunately, we're hearing, air fresheners have kind of snuck back into the classrooms and causing some kids some problems. So we're just going to kind of do an assessment of what's going on at some of the campuses, just to kind of see what's going on. So, yeah, perceptual data.
Hashtag 5th grade hallway.
All right. I think that takes us to the end.
Well, on that note, this meeting is now adjourned at 1:28 p.m. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing you at our next SHAC meeting in May.